All right, welcome to problem set 2.4 video key, the law of syllogism. So here's what the law of syllogism states. If we know these statements are true, so if these are true, so two different statements here. Statement one. So if, we're just going to call it P. So if P, then Q. So it's just an if-then statement where P and Q are whatever. It doesn't matter what they are. We're just saying if P, then Q, if that's a true statement. So like, if you are in fifth period geometry, then you have Mr. Gimrick. Okay, that's true at Bradley High School. So just any true statement there. So if P, then Q, and if Q, then R is also true, then we know a third statement that is true. We know a third true statement, which is if P, then R. Okay, so what that's showing here is, so if P, then Q is true, so sometimes we say implies, so if P implies Q, and Q implies R, then P must imply R. Okay, and we'll do this with some examples down here. So right here, we're going to write each statement as a conditional statement. So remember, if then is what that is. And so if something is a frog, actually, go ahead and pause this and try A, B, and C right now. Okay? So if something is a frog, then it is an amphibian. Okay? And then the next one, if something is an amphibian, then it can breathe air. Okay, now this is where the law of syllogism comes into play. So we can now say, since statement A is true, if something is a frog, then it is an amphibian. And if something is an amphibian, then it can breathe air. Then we can kind of skip this middle statement here and just say that if something is a frog, then it can breathe air. Okay, and that's what's going on up here with the P's. If P, then Q. If Q, then R. Then if P, then R. So we're just kind of getting rid of the middleman, if you will. So using the law of syllogism, we can say if something is a frog, I'm just going to copy and paste this. So if something is a frog, then it can breathe air. Okay? So that's the law of syllogism in a nutshell. All right. So now it says, what conditional statement can you make using the law of syllogism in the statements below? So it says, if you find money in your pocket, then you will go to the vending machine. If you go to the vending machine, then you will buy a caffeinated drink. And if you buy a caffeinated drink, then you will have energy. So what we can do is think of it like this. If you find money in your pocket, you'll go to the vending machine. If you go to the vending machine, then you'll buy a caffeinated drink. So what that means is, and also pause this, by the way, and try these on your own. Try 2 and 3 on your own if you haven't done that already. Okay? But we can cross out that statement essentially and say, all right, if you find money in your pocket, then you will buy a caffeinated drink. But then it goes on more to say, well, if you buy a caffeinated drink, then you'll have energy. So we can kind of skip that step, and we can start with, if you find money in your pocket, then you'll have energy, because these other things happened in between. Okay? So in the end, we end up with, if you find money in your pocket, then you will have energy. Now that statement alone might not necessarily make sense, but these statements that I crossed out are the reasons that those are true. Because if you find money in your pocket, right here, then you'll go to the vending machine. Okay? If you go to the vending machine, then you're going to buy a caffeinated drink. And if you buy a caffeinated drink, then you'll have energy. So therefore, just by finding money in your pocket, we can conclude that you will have energy. Okay, try number 3 if you haven't already, by pausing the video. What conditional statement can you make using the law of syllogism and the statements below? So, we have, if Joe wakes up early, then he will have breakfast. If Joe goes to bed early, then he will wake up early. So I'm going to kind of draw an arrow here and say, all right, this one leads us to that, really. If Joe has breakfast, then he will run faster in gym class. So this is, I don't know if this is going to get confusing or not for you, but then this one actually implies that one. And it says if Joe reads at night, then he will go to bed early. So this one leads us to that one. So it looks like we have, if Joe reads at night, he'll go to bed early. If Joe goes to bed early, then he'll wake up early. If he wakes up early, then he will have breakfast. And if Joe has breakfast, then he will run faster in gym class. Okay? So hopefully that makes sense to you. So in the end, we know if Joe reads at night, then he will run faster in gym class. Again, not something that necessarily makes sense if you just read it by itself, but there are a bunch of statements in between that one thing led to another thing being true, which led to another thing being true, and then we can conclude that if Joe reads at night, then he will run faster in gym class. In gym class. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this problem set. And then you're going to do this, and this is what you need to turn in. It's the law of syllogism. So some of you may have already done this, and that's fine in class. But we're going to write 5 to 10 conditional statements below that would generate the statement above. Now, you're going to figure out what this is. Make sure that your statements link together and make sense. So very much like number 3 right here. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to where the assignment is on Canvas, and there's a document linked with it called 30.5 Law of Syllogism, Hypotheses, and Conclusions. And you can choose any hypothesis you want. I think there's 24 of them, so from 1 to 24, pick anything you want, and pick any conclusion you want from 1 through 24. And then write that as an if-then statement right here. And then you need to kind of like tell a story here that links those two statements. So again, a good example is this one. So maybe your hypothesis ends up being if Joe reads at night. It's not going to be that because that's not an option. But if Joe reads at night, that would be your hypothesis, and your conclusion is then he will run faster in gym class. And then you're going to make up these middle statements up here that end up having your hypothesis lead to your conclusion. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. And again, that's what you need to turn in for the assignment.